The WWE draft is upon us, and it will undoubtedly change the landscape of the WWE as we know it. And while we're so wrapped up in which one of our favorite Raw and SmackDown superstars will go to their co-respective brands, we tend to forget that NXT is actually involved in this year's draft as well. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Haydxn, and today we're going to talk about some potential superstars that could be drafted from NXT and called up to the main roster. So the WWE draft occurs annually, and it is a chance to not only shake up the superstars to give us new entertainment, but it's also a chance to give them new opportunities that they wouldn't have on their brand necessarily. Drafting a superstar to a different brand can lead to them winning different titles, it can lead to them breaking up and forming new factions, but it could also lead to future careers for NXT superstars who have been called up to Raw and SmackDown. I, for one, expect to see a lot of NXT call-ups, not only because a lot of people in NXT have proven that they are ready for the main roster, but I think that WWE and Triple H is about to usher in a new era consisting of a lot of newer characters. Before we get into my thoughts and predictions on which NXT superstars I think are going to be called up to the main roster during this draft, we have to talk about how Fightful Select reported that Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes are apparently already locks to be called up to the main roster. This would make sense for a couple of reasons, considering Trick and Carmelo Hayes are wrapping up their feud. Carmelo Hayes has already had matches on the main roster on SmackDown against guys like Austin Theory, and this past Monday on the Raw after WrestleMania, we actually got to see Ilya Dragunov compete on the main roster for the first time. Not only are these dudes super talented, but they've also proven that they have the talent that it takes to stand with the main roster, and they are characters that can actually be on our television, and they can take us into the new era of WWE. The thing that's interesting about Ilya Dragunov, though, is he is the current NXT champion, so unless they plan on him losing the championship soon before the draft, or if he does get drafted and he has to relinquish his championship, we're gonna have to wait and find out. Other than those two being locks to be called up to the main roster during the draft, a personal favorite of mine that could actually be drafted to the main roster is Dijak. The reason I say this is because, number one, there is not much left for him to do in NXT unless he is gonna win the NXT championship when Ilya Dragunov eventually drops the title. But apart from there not being much left for him to do in NXT, he actually already has main roster experience from the Retribution. I know, you don't want me to talk about Retribution, but whether it was good or not, he did prove that he has what it takes to go out there on the big stage in front of us every week in the Retribution group, and he handled the pressure. So with that experience and with him not having much left to do in NXT, I do think that he could be called up to the main roster. Another call up we might see to the main roster is Joe Gacy. The reason I say Joe Gacy is kind of because of a little personal conspiracy that I have in my head that Joe Gacy could actually join the Wyatt Six faction if they are to form that when Uncle Howdy does return. So if that is a thing, making Joe Gacy a part of that faction would actually make a lot of sense. It would add a whole new element to his character and a whole new element to the group, so even if they do something like that, that is something to keep an eye on. So Joe Gacy to the main roster is also a slight possibility for this WWE draft. But the WWE draft is not exclusive to only men's superstars. Women's superstars are also eligible to be drafted and called up, and that's why I think this year Roxanne Perez will be called up to the main roster. The reason I say this is just like Ilya Dragunov, Roxanne Perez was on the Raw after WrestleMania. She went out there, she had an incredible match, and the WWE fans absolutely ate it up. She is an incredible talent, and although she is the NXT Women's Champion at this moment, that doesn't mean anything considering that Ilya Dragunov, who is the Men's NXT Champion, is already a lock for this year's draft according to Fightful Select. Those are just a couple of my theories on who I think could be called up to the main roster for this year's WWE draft straight from NXT. Let me know down in the comment section who you think is going to be called up. And as always, if you did enjoy this video, then please be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Not only does it help me out tremendously, but it gives me motivation to keep on going and posting content for all of you guys daily. And if you be sure to leave that thumbs up and subscribe, then I'll be sure to see you guys in the next video. Peace!